The NBA playoffs are upon us, and I'm going to be making my predictions for the NBA playoffs today. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We are kicking it off in the Eastern Conference, where the Milwaukee Bucks, the overall number one seed, who finished the NBA this season with the best record in the conference, they will take on either the Chicago Bulls or the Miami Heat, who of course are finishing up their play-in game tomorrow. Regardless of who the Bucks face, I believe they're going to move on in the series. If it's Chicago, it may be a sweep. If it's Miami, I think Miami with Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, providing that extra rim protection against Giannis. And I think Miami could push them to 5 or 6, though I don't think it's going to be that hard of a series. If Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo are all healthy, which of course Middleton is the one question mark there for Milwaukee. Milwaukee is one of, if not the best teams this year in the association. Now, as who Milwaukee will play, that will come down to the Cavs and Knicks. I think this is going to be a very competitive series where the Knicks, they won 3 out of 4 games against the Cavs this season, but they were very tough in Nick. One of them, of course, was a huge offensive shootout just a couple weeks ago at Rockets Mortgage Fieldhouse. The one early in the season was a very defensive game in Madison Square Garden. But with Julius Randle's injury and the explosiveness of what the Cavaliers have in the backcourt with Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, you add on top of that Evan Mobley, who has been playing at a defensive player of the year level, and Jared Allen manning the middle. I think the Cavs have more talent than the Knicks, and the Cavs will win their first playoff series without LeBron James on its roster since, of course, the early 1990s, where I believe the Cavaliers will win this series in 6 games. The other side of the Eastern bracket, you have, of course, the Sixers taking on the Nets. Now, as good as Mikal Bridges has been for the Nets since coming over in the Kevin Durant trade, which to me it is shocking that Brooklyn even made the 6th seed. They weren't even a playing team after getting rid of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. They did get obviously some good pieces in that deal along with Bridges. Spencer Dinwiddie comes to mind, and a lot of bench rotational pieces. As I've said before, I did not believe Brooklyn got enough for KD. I would have asked for Devin Booker or Chris Paul in exchange, though if Mikal Bridges ends up being a superstar and not a star, it may end up being, worth the compensation that they got. Regardless, I don't think Brooklyn is ready for Philadelphia. Yes, they have Nick Claxton, but Joel Embiid, James Harden, you throw in Tyrese Maxey in there. I think Embiid has his way in the series. I think Maxey becomes the number 2, where Harden is sort of deferring to Maxey and Embiid to lead the way. Sixers, I think, cruise past Brooklyn. If you want to give Brooklyn a game, great. But I do believe that Philadelphia will win this series rather easily. And I will tell you, the Boston Atlanta series. Now, Atlanta is an inconsistent team, but ever since they've gotten new head coach Quinn Snyder, who has plenty of playoff experience, obviously, with all those years in Utah, Atlanta's a fighter. And we saw, the impact Sadiq Bey, who, of course, they acquired at the trade deadline. We saw the impact that he had in that playing game against Miami. We know Trae Young can always go off. They have great players like John Collins, a great rim protector in Clint Capella, and Atlanta has a lot of wings, and they can throw a lot of different bodies at Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. As you guys know, I was very critical of Boston, especially last year in the NBA Finals. I did not think they matched up well against Golden State. I really believed that Jason Tatum really did not show up in the finals at all. I thought Jaylen Brown was their best player. And so I think Boston now, obviously a new head coach trying to navigate the waters after what happened with Ime Udoka and his scandal earlier this season. So Boston is going to have a unique look. I think they'll be fine getting through the first round, but I think this series is going to be a little bit more difficult because, again, Trae Young can go off at any moment. Atlanta has a lot of different bodies that they can throw at you, and I do believe that Boston does advance, but I think it's going to happen in 6 games. So that sets up then Bucks Cavaliers second round. Now the Cavs, we already mentioned, right? Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, dynamic backcourt. And obviously with the additions of Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, the Cavs match up really well against the Bucks. The one thing the Cavs do not have is a great wing player. Isaac Okoro, Caris LeVert, very inconsistent, especially Okoro on the offensive end, LeVert more so on the defensive end. Cedi Osman is another wing. But they really, Evan Mobley, if he does not do a good job against Giannis, it could be trouble. And I think this is a series where if Chris Middleton is healthy, Milwaukee, as their way with the Cavs, they could win them 4 or 5 games. If Middleton is not healthy, though, this series could push to 6 or 7 games. I really think that extra wing that Milwaukee has, and obviously DiVincenzo is in Golden State now. But that extra wing I think Milwaukee has makes a difference in this series. The Bucks, they play the Cavaliers well in the regular season. The Cavs got their one game when Giannis did not play at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Regardless, again, it's a good matchup, but I think the Bucks are just the better team. Cavs push them to 6 games, but Milwaukee ultimately comes out victorious. Especially in the East, this is the hardest series to pick. Boston and Philly, I think it's definitely going to go 7 games. And the Celtics having home court advantage. We know the Celtics and Sixers in the past have had some legendary battle it out duels recently in the postseason. We know these two teams do not like each other. Joel Embiid, to me, is the best player in the series. Those 2nd and 3 are probably Tatum and Brown. The question is going to be, because Philadelphia, Tobias Harris anymore is not a great defender. Can Philadelphia get enough defense and enough scoring for their other guys outside of Embiid? And then can Tatum and Brown kind of outdo Embiid and Maxey and or Harden, if you will? I think it's going to be the key. I think it's going to be a very physical, beat up, worn down, emotional series. And we know, obviously, Doc Rivers was the head coach of the Celtics for a lot of years. We've known Doc Rivers notoriously, historically, in the postseason has not done great. So until Doc can overcome that, ever since the 08 championship in Boston, he's won a multitude of leads. And I believe that Boston will win this series in 7 games, which sets up number 1 against number 2, Bucks, Celtics. Eastern Conference Finals. And I do believe Milwaukee finishes Boston off. It does not go the full 7. It goes 6. Milwaukee finishes Boston in 6 because Boston, Al Horford, Grant Williams, Robert Williams, they are all good defenders, but they do not have what it takes to stop that three-headed monster in Milwaukee, who is just overall more talented than the two-headed monster that's in Boston. That could change if Boston gets a 3rd additional score. Obviously, Marcus Smart could be that guy. We mentioned Grant Williams, Robert Williams, potentially Al Horford, but Boston's going to need to find other scoring in this series outside of Tatum and Brown. I don't think they can do it for a full 7 games. And so, in my opinion, the best player currently in the NBA, Giannis Antetokounmpo, makes it to the NBA Finals representing the East. And yes, I do believe that the Eastern Conference is all chalk, if you will. The complete opposite is going to happen in the West. Now, I do think Denver gets by either Oklahoma City or Minnesota. I don't think either of those two teams put up a fight. I think Denver could potentially sweep them in round 1 and advance. The big thing here is Suns Clippers, right? Without Paul George, the Clippers, I do not believe, have the firepower to match up with Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker. And as I have said about the Kevin Durant trade and the Phoenix Suns, I do believe the Suns, when it all comes down to, is health. If all 3 of those guys are healthy for the duration of the postseason, it's going to be really hard to beat them. I think Milwaukee and another team in the West that I will say so in a minute are the only 2 teams really that can beat a healthy Phoenix Suns team. if the Clippers had Paul George and they had some of these other bench players that they dealt at the trade deadline, obviously we saw Plumlee and Bones Highland getting into it. Their bench hasn't really been as great as it was. Obviously, Reggie Jackson leaving the team. Though Terrence Mann is still on there, Marcus Morris is still on there, but it's not the same bench. And so because of that, and we know Kawhi Leonard's history of injuries and knees. I think Kawhi is the best two-way defender outside of Giannis in the NBA, though I don't think he can guard Durant the whole series. I actually think the Clippers are well coached. You got Tyronn Lue, Monty Williams, two great coaches here. But I do believe the Suns take care of the Clippers in 5 games. So that sets up then the 3 versus 6, which is obviously Sacramento, their first playoff series in forever against Golden State. Sacramento, we know is all offense. We know Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox have had good years, but they're not the formidable power that is Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Jordan Poole. They're also getting Andrew Wiggins back. I've said it, since the beginning of the season. Golden State was my pick to go back-to-back and win the NBA championship. It really does feel like they got the luck of the draw here in round 1, taking on a Sacramento team that does not play defense. They will take advantage of it. Golden State's playoff experience wins over Sacramento's youth. That happens in 6 games. And then finally, in my opinion, next to Cavs Knicks, the best series of round 1 is 2 versus 7. That being Memphis against the Lakers. This series is truly 50-50. Really tough to call. LeBron James, best player in the series. Next best player in the series, Ja Morant. After that, you got Anthony Davis. Now, the big thing here is if AD can stay healthy, the Lakers should win this series because of Memphis' lack of rim protection with Steven Adams out due to injury. Obviously, Brandon Clark, Dylan Brooks. Then you have Desmond Bane. Like Memphis has a lot of rotational and a lot of good pieces, but the Lakers, man, picking up those guys at the trade deadline, and Dennis Schroeder has been a godsend for them coming off the bench, and they did addition by subtraction, where they obviously got rid of Russell Westbrook, gave them more oomph to their step. I forgot to mention, I think Russell Westbrook will be a detriment to the Clippers as well. But I do believe the Lakers win this thing again. I think veteran teams defeat young teams in the playoffs who've not been there, done that. And that sets up a very Lakers Golden State 7 versus 6. This is the rare year, I believe, in the Western Conference. Now, for those of you that don't know, the NBA has never had a team that has not been a top 4 seed win the NBA championship. And I believe that there is a first time for everything, and that may be this year. Because in the West, you're going to have a 6 or 7 seed make the Western Conference Finals when the Lakers go at Golden State. And again, I think Golden State just has the more pieces. They are more championship ready. They are less injury prone, and they are less top heavy than the Lakers. I think Andrew Wiggins makes a huge difference in this series, and Golden State with Draymond and Wiggins and the other bodies, DiVincenzo even, that they can throw after LeBron. Klay Thompson, obviously, for a little bit. I think they make it really hard on former teammate D'Angelo Russell in this series. And I think Golden State beats the Lakers in 6 games. Now, as their opponent for the Western Conference Finals, they will either face the 4-seed Suns or the 1-seed Nuggets, and I believe it's going to be the 4-seed Suns. Again, Nikola Jokic, he may be the MVP for the 3rd straight year, though a lot of people think it's going to be Joel Embiid. I do believe, for the record, it's going to be Joel Embiid. But Jokic does not have the help that Durant has. I think Chris Paul is a really good series. I think they toy with Jamal Murray on the defensive end. I think they toy with Jokic, put him in a lot of pick and roll. I think DeAndre Ayton handles the boards, kind of neutralizes that. Then you have Durant, and I think Devin Booker is a big factor in this series. Devin Booker has a really big series. Suns take care of Denver also in 6. That sets up then Golden State at Phoenix for the Western Conference Finals, a 6 versus a 4. And again, Kevin Durant going back to Golden State. Obviously, Phoenix will have home court advantage, but I do not think it will matter because I think by this time, Chris Paul's age will be showing. Devin Booker will not be as clutch in the Western Conference Finals. Kevin Durant will be great against his former team, though he won't get that help. And the 6 seed Golden State Warriors will advance in 6 games to take on the number 1 seed Milwaukee Bucks. Question is the thing going 6 or 7? I believe it's going 6. And listen, I get it. Golden State may not have a great rim protector to stop Giannis Antetokounmpo, which is my one concern in the series. But I think that they are well coached. They're going to let Giannis get his, and they're going to neutralize Jrue Holiday and Middleton, who again will not be that effective. And with the bodies Golden State throws at people, and with Milwaukee not being a great defensive head coach team, Steve Kerr, the better head coach, defeats Coach Bud and the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Golden State Warriors become the first ever team from the number 6 seed to win the NBA championship. I believe the Warriors defeat the Bucks in 6 games, and Golden State will once again go back to back. So in conclusion, once again, first round, I have Bucks defeating either the Bulls or the Heat. I have the Cavs over the Knicks, Sixers over the Nets, Celtics over the Hawks. Second round, Bucks over Cavs, as well as Celtics over Sixers. That sets up Bucks Celtics Eastern Conference Finals where Milwaukee wins. In the West, I have 2 upsets. Golden State knocks off Sacramento from the 6 to the 3. Lakers 7th seed upset Memphis. That creates Golden State Lakers second round, where the Warriors will win that series in 6 games. They will take on the Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals, who not only dispose of the Clippers in round 1, they do so to the Nuggets in round 2. Golden State wins the Western Conference Finals in 6 games, and the Golden State Warriors win the NBA championship in 6 games over the Milwaukee Bucks, with Steph Curry winning your 2023 NBA Finals MVP, getting his 5th championship and his 2nd back-to-back MVP. You like that clip from the Brand's World Podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand's World Podcast right here on YouTube.